The first time I saw the Empress of Athira, she was standing on a floating dais of black crystal, her silhouette framed by a burning blue sky that wasn't really a sky at all. It was a planetary shield, alive, breathing, humming with alien power. I knew, in that moment, my life on Earth was already over. I wasn't a soldier. I wasn't a diplomat. I was a xenolinguist, someone who translated alien scripts and cultural patterns for people who actually mattered. My job was to analyze transmissions, not stand in the throne hall of the most feared empire in 3 spiral arms. Yet there I was, shackled in gravity cuffs, staring up at Empress Calith Vera, the ruler whose fleets had erased entire civilizations without firing a shot. Her people didn't conquer with brute force. They conquered with inevitability. She descended from the dais, her long ceremonial robes flowing like liquid night. Her skin shimmered with faint constellations, as if the universe itself had branded her. When her eyes met mine, I felt something invasive press against my thoughts. Not pain, not fear, but assessment. I was being weighed. "You are the human who understands our forbidden glyphs," she said, her voice echoing inside my skull rather than the air. "I translate them," I answered, careful not to look weak. She tilted her head slightly. A gesture, I would later learn, reserved for prey that surprised her. "You will do more than translate," she said. "You will decide the fate of your species." The throne hall fell silent. Thousands of alien nobles watched, their expressions unreadable. I swallowed. "How?" I asked. Calith stepped closer. Close enough that I could see faint fractures in her regal composure, stress lines formed by centuries of absolute rule. "You will become my consort," she said calmly, "or I will begin the cleansing of Earth within 1 planetary rotation." The words hit harder than any weapon. Wedding. Or war. Middle. They gave me time, exactly 26 hours, which in Athira culture was considered a profound mercy. I was escorted to a chamber that looked more like a temple than a prison. No bars. No guards. Just invisible force fields and omnipresent watchers. I paced. Earth had no defenses against the Etherian armada. That much I knew from intercepted transmissions. Their ships didn't just destroy planets. They rewrote them, stripping atmospheres, boiling oceans, leaving nothing but sterile rock. Why me? I accessed the chamber's interface and pulled historical archives. That's when the truth began to surface. Athira's empire was dying. Not from rebellion. Not from invasion. From stagnation. Their species had evolved beyond natural reproduction centuries ago, relying on cloning and genetic recursion to preserve perfection. But perfection had become a cage. Their genome was collapsing in on itself, losing adaptability. They needed something chaotic. They needed humanity. Specifically, a mind capable of bonding with the Empress through an ancient biocognitive ritual, one that required emotional unpredictability, empathy, and narrative thinking. Traits humans had in excess. I wasn't chosen because I was special. I was chosen because I was dangerous. Later, Calith came to me alone. No guards. No armor. "I did not wish to threaten your world," she said quietly. "But an empress who hesitates invites collapse." "You're asking me to sacrifice my freedom," I replied. "My home. My species' dignity." She met my gaze without flinching. "And you are asking me to let my empire die slowly," she said. "Billions fading into extinction. Which loss weighs more?" I didn't have an answer. She showed me visions, shared memories through neural resonance. Etherian children born without innovation. Star systems frozen in eternal sameness. An empire too afraid to change. Then she showed me Earth. Thriving. Messy. Violent. creative,
alive.
You terrify us, she admitted. That is why you are necessary. By the 18th hour, Earth's orbital defense satellites had already been silently disabled, proof that this wasn't a bluff. The wedding ceremony was prepared. Golden spires rose from the palace, grown rather than built. Millions watched across the empire. On Earth, governments scrambled, unaware of the true stakes, receiving only vague ultimatums they couldn't decode in time. As I stood before the ceremonial platform, wearing garments woven from living matter, my hands shook. Calith approached. Once bonded, she said softly, our minds will intertwine. You will influence me, shape me, and if I refuse? Her jaw tightened. Then I will become what history demands. A monster. The officiator raised its many hands. The ritual began. Ending. The moment our minds connected, the universe cracked open. I felt Calith's consciousness, vast, disciplined, burdened by centuries of command. I felt her loneliness, buried beneath protocol. Her terror of becoming irrelevant. Her rage at an empire that worshipped her power but denied her humanity. And she felt me. Every doubt, every fear, every irrational hope that things could be better. The bond surged. I realized then that this wasn't a marriage. It was a merger. Instead of submitting, I pushed. I flooded her mind with human memories, art, rebellion, failure, love without logic. I showed her revolutions born from compassion, not conquest. I showed her leaders who stepped down instead of ruling forever. She staggered. The officiator screamed in alarm. What are you doing? Calith gasped. Changing the terms, I said. The ancient ritual allowed influence both ways. They had assumed a human would yield under the weight of an empress's will. They had forgotten how stubborn humans could be. I proposed a third path. No wedding. No war. Athira would abandon genetic stagnation. They would open themselves, not to domination but to collaboration. Cultural exchange. Shared governance. Evolution through diversity, not purity. If they refused, I would destabilize the bond, tearing apart the imperial neural network that linked every noble mind to Calith's consciousness. An empire built on unity would collapse instantly. Calith saw the future branching before her. For the first time in her reign, she chose uncertainty. The ceremony was halted. The fleets stood down. Across the galaxy, shockwaves rippled, not of destruction, but of change. Earth was spared. I remained on Athira, not as a consort, but as an emissary of chaos, a living reminder that control was not the same as survival. Calith ruled differently after that. She listened. She delegated.
She evolved.
And sometimes, when we stood together beneath the artificial sky, she would look at me with that same calculating gaze. Only now, there was something else behind it. Respect. I never married the Empress. But I did something far more dangerous. I taught an empire how to change. And in doing so, I ensured humanity would never be ignored again.